All right, let's go ahead and get this started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I would like to welcome you today to a webinar hosted by Cobalt Iron on mapping your data protection journey. However, before we get started, I would like to set the stage for the next 45 minutes. This webinar is being hosted live and will be made available on demand after we wrap up today. The first 30 minutes or so of today's webinar will be covered by Greg Tevis and myself, with the last 15 minutes reserved for questions and answers. So if you do have any questions along the way, please do make sure to put them in the Ask a Question tab, and we'll answer them at the end of the session today. But before we get started, I'd like to grab everybody's attention and award somebody a $50 Amazon gift card if you can tell me where this picture was taken. Whoever is closest from a geography perspective will win. So please put your answer in the Ask a Question tab, and we will review them at the end of today's webinar. All right, so let's go ahead and kick this off. My name is Andy Hurt, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Cobalt Iron, and I'm responsible for both product management as well as marketing. With me today is Greg Tevis, our Vice President of Strategy at Cobalt Iron. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks, Andy, and welcome to all of you who are listening live or on the recording. Thanks for joining.
First of all, who is Cobalt Iron? So Cobalt Iron is the global leader in SaaS-based enterprise data protection. The company was founded in 2013 to really bring a fundamental change in the world's approach to data protection. So today, Cobalt Iron delivers enterprise data protection to customers in 44 countries around the world, and processes more than 8 million backup and recovery events a month. Today, Greg and I will take you through a journey that may look really familiar to some of you and may look perhaps distant and challenging for others. The intent of today's webinar is not to dictate where you should be in the data protection journey, but rather to give you the tools to determine where in the journey is right for your organization. So to start, I'll introduce 4 key phases of a backup transformation model, as well as a chasm that has to be navigated along the journey and ultimately crossed. Next, Greg and I will help you assess your current stage in the transformation model and outline the complexities and benefits that may exist when transforming from one phase to the next. Finally, Greg will give a brief overview on how a compass can guide you across that chasm I mentioned before and point you in the right direction on your data protection journey. Let's go ahead and get started on that journey by introducing the backup data transformation model. So I really love this quote from The Economist because it really hits home on the importance of data protection and how organizations are starting to consider data as an asset, not just a cost. So of course, not all companies would agree, but let's take a look at how you can determine where your organization fits in. If you're attending this webinar today, I'm going to guess it likely means that you've spent time either procuring, deploying, managing, maintaining, or using backup solutions to meet your company's data service levels. I'm sure that this has felt extremely challenging at times, and perhaps you have thought, my goodness, there has got to be a better way to solve for data backup. This is where mapping your future can really help alleviate that anxiety and put you on perhaps a clearer path to success. Earlier this year, Christoph Bertrand from Enterprise Strategy Group published a really fantastic blog titled From Backup to Intelligent Data, Introducing a New Maturity Model. This model illustrates the data protection journey that we've been speaking about already today. The ESG model has 4 key stages. On the left, there are the 2 stages, which are baseline stage and cloud-enabled stage. In the middle, you'll see a chasm, and then on the far right side, you'll see data intelligence stage, as well as the autonomous stage. According to ESG, the first 2 stages, so again, meaning the baseline stage and the cloud-enabled stages, are separated from the last 2 stages, meaning the data intelligent and autonomous stages, but what they call the data management chasm. This chasm ultimately has to be navigated and crossed in order to take that big leap from cloud-enabled to data intelligence. It's important to assess where your organization currently sits and if that phase is where you ultimately would like to be. One of the other key focuses of the ESG model is the role of data in your organization. So are you simply modernizing your data center, or are you leveraging data as a part of a digital transformation? In general, most organizations sit in one of two camps. So either your company may think about data in terms of where does it live, meaning is it on-premise, is it in a private cloud, is it in a public cloud, or perhaps a hybrid cloud, as well as how much does it cost, meaning how much does it cost to store it, how much does it cost to access it, and how much would it cost to restore it in the event you need it back. Or on the other side, your culture may think about data in terms of what does data do for our business and how much can it return, meaning can your data provide a return on investment to your organization. If your organization thinks about data more in terms of cost, meaning the former definition, it is likely that you have a cost-focused data backup strategy, and therefore defining your organization as an IT transformation and modernization culture. On the flip side of that, if your management thinks about data in terms of opportunities, meaning what can data do and how much can it return, then you're labeled as a digital transformation culture. So at this point, I'd like to take a really quick poll. So please use the voting tab below to answer the following question. Which of the following best represents your corporate approach to data backup? Would that be where does data live and how much does it cost? Or would you select what data can do and how much can it return? So please go ahead and answer that poll. We'll leave it open for about a minute or so, and then we'll aggregate the responses and read them out towards the end of today's webinar. Now that we've introduced the backup transformation model, let's take a look at the stages of the model and do some initial assessments of where your organization may fit. Often, when speaking with customers, we find that one of their biggest pain points they face with backup is running legacy products. But I guess the question is that really an issue running a legacy product? What is the real problem with legacy products? Although legacy solutions may in fact be absolutely right for your organization, there are definitely some shortcomings. So many, but not all of them, but again, many older technologies may have become very overly complex and perhaps fragile over the years. So what likely started off as a relatively simple implementation for a pretty small environment likely has grown into complex policies and orders of magnitude larger workloads. So when these solutions were originally deployed, people were trained and became subject matter experts over the years. Now you may find yourself in a situation where these subject matter experts with literally decades of experience are starting to retire from the workforce, therefore leaving a massive operational gap. At the same time, your data protection requirements are constantly changing, and the business may now need to support cloud technology or perhaps OpEx expenditures. So if this isn't bad enough, most older solutions really never had to or did consider how to natively solve for cybersecurity threats. So this means that I'm guessing that you'd be looking to replace your backup product with one that might have cybersecurity natively built into it already, or kind of worse yet, add another point product just to meet your security requirements. So if this all sounds too familiar, I'm guessing it's likely that you are in the legacy or on-premise phase of the data protection journey. So Greg, how do these legacy environments really fit into the ESG model?
So yeah, Andy, as you mentioned, the first stage of the ESG backup transformation model is entitled the baseline stage. And it's focused on traditional on-premises workload protection. It's exactly the kinds of legacy environments that you've been describing. These legacy environments are sort of a box and product-focused world of technology and operational complexities. This first stage is also characterized by silos of technology, silos of management, and silos of data. While companies that are in this stage may dream of advancing their backup services, most continue to buy boxes or products that bring improvements but not solutions. So if your company is making enterprise backup decisions from a box or product perspective only, rather than from an end-to-end solution perspective, your company is likely rooted in this baseline stage. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, as there's some really great products out there. It's just an indication that your company is likely in this first stage of the ESG model.
Right on, Greg. Thanks. Let's move on to the next area of assessment. So I'd be willing to bet that many people on the webinar today have been asked by management to perhaps explore the cloud because it might be more affordable and it could enable more flexibility. But really, does the truth live up to these promises for everyone? One of the first things that you need to answer as an organization is the cloud actually right for us? Here are some questions that may need to be asked really to get to that answer. First, does your data backup solution support the cloud? Well, the honest answer is that most marketing materials for backup products will say, yeah, our backup solution does support the cloud. But in reality, there can be a lot of confusion around actual cloud capabilities. And companies can get surprised when they find out that their cloud provider does not guarantee backup uptime, or that their backup vendor does not support their desired cloud use case. Some other questions that need to be asked and answered are, does your solution support on-premise only workloads? Can your solution run in a private cloud environment? You say that your solution is integrated with the cloud, but which ones and for what use cases? What about hybrid cloud models? Can we run both on-premise as well as in private or public cloud or both? What about multi-cloud or cross-cloud? Can I protect data in AWS in the Americas, and Azure for Europe, and Alibaba for Asia Pacific? What if I want to have data protected and replicated across different public cloud vendors? It's also important to do kind of the arithmetic on what it will actually cost to get your data back in the event you need it. So this is not just about storing your data in the cloud. Honestly, that math is pretty straightforward and generally economically favorable. It's really what you have to figure out is what will it cost to actually get your data back when the time comes, because that time will come. So Greg, we see that cloud enablement is one of the stages of the ESG model. Could you take us through that and the next steps of the model?
Sure, Andy. Cloud, as you said, cloud enabled is the second stage in the ESG model. This stage is an easy one to make an assessment on, and many companies in stage one of the model are also extending into this cloud enabled stage. In this stage, backup solutions are leveraging public and private cloud-based technologies. And I would say that backup vendors are doing a pretty good job extending their products to leverage cloud resources for various use cases. But Andy, as you said, quite often it's only for a limited number of cloud providers and a limited number of cloud use cases that are covered. Some of the most common cloud use cases for backup are storing backup data to the cloud, performing disaster recovery in the cloud or across clouds, and backing up cloud workloads. As we all know, incorporating cloud services can bring new flexibilities to backup operations and infrastructure. However, cloud does not solve some of the underlying challenges of enterprise backup. In fact, if not properly leveraged and architected, cloud may actually add to the complexities, costs, service level challenges, and security risks of backup. So I would say most enterprises and vendors find themselves sort of entangled in one or both of these first two stages. ESG points out that most vendor and customer activity is currently focused on continual improvements in these two stages, and that over the near term, these two stages will continue to merge as legacy backup becomes more seamlessly integrated with cloud. And Andy, as we mentioned, being in any of these stages may be fine if the approach is meeting your business requirements. However, more and more the demands of business are imposing themselves into backup operations. Those business demands include spending less on the care and feeding of technologies, and maybe on a focus or refocus on company data protection, data mobility, data intelligence, and gaining insights from your data. The ESG model identifies a data management chasm that we've mentioned between the first two stages we've discussed already and the remaining two stages, which we'll talk about in a moment. This data management chasm is sort of indicative of the challenge that end users and vendors have in evolving to intelligent data management. Bridging the data management chasm requires a shift from technology and operational focus more to business outcomes. We should note also that ESG points out that one possible bridge to stages 3 and 4 is orchestration. So Andy, with that in mind, could you take our audience through how we might assess our organizations in terms of orchestration and integration with other IT services?
Absolutely, sure thing, Greg. But first, to grab everybody's attention, just once again, I have one more Amazon gift card for $50. Here's the question. What is the single largest application running in the data center? So again, what is the single largest application running in the data center? So as with before, please submit your answer via the Ask a Question tab, and we'll take a look at the end of today's webinar and award that individual the $50 gift card. All right, let's continue on. So often data backup is really an afterthought when it comes to IT budgets, operations, deployments, and scale. Too many times it sits isolated and does not leverage corporate IT software and tool sets. Let's take a look at why data backup is never really considered what we call a first-class citizen in the data center. So why is data backup not considered a part of the corporate tool set? Well, mostly it's because backup products have been hardware-driven, proprietary in nature, and have closed environments. So as a result of that, most backup applications do not have open APIs that allow you to simply integrate with corporate tool sets such as orchestration, ticketing, and reporting. As a result, backup becomes an operational silo with really very little visibility and transparency into the broader IT environment. So if your organization is already taking advantage of backup solutions that enable integrations into the best-of-breed third-party tools, then you are likely already thinking about the fourth and final phase of the data protection journey, and therefore you've likely already crossed that chasm. As I just mentioned, if backup is already integrated and viewed as a first-class citizen in the data center, then I would venture to guess that you are also keeping a pretty good pulse on how artificial intelligence and machine learning might actually enhance data protection in the coming years. Although there is a lot of talk, let's be honest, no one is really doing pure artificial intelligence and machine learning in the data protection space today. So although this is absolutely the direction that industry is headed, this technology also is likely going to introduce new challenges, new complexities, and additional costs before it actually drives them out. So in order to understand where your organization fits on this journey, make sure to ask the following. Is your organization starting to ask how you can move forward to a more of an autonomous backup operation? Is your organization open to an actual increase in data protection spend in the very short term, understanding that the end game is to optimize and reduce OpEx through self-learning and self-healing backup? Finally, is your organization starting to view data more like a true asset versus a hard cost? So if you find yourself at this point in your data protection journey, you're likely looking to evolve in the ESG model. Greg, where are we again in mapping our discussion to the ESG model?
The third stage in ESG's data transformation model is the data intelligence stage. A key aspect of this stage is that the delivery of backup evolves to an as-a-service model. Technology remains important, but infrastructure and operations become more automated. In addition, time to deployment and service level compliance become more important than the technologies themselves that are being leveraged. Also, ESG identifies in this stage that cybersecurity becomes a key technology integration. And finally, and perhaps most important, is that the content, the context, and sort of characteristics of data emerge as key value points that begin to be tracked, monitored, and analyzed for impact and benefit and return of investment to the business. So if your company is automating backup operations, delivering backup as a service, locked down with cybersecurity protection, and integrating backup into other corporate tools, you are likely emerging in this stage 3 of the ESG model. The fourth stage of the ESG data transformation model is the autonomous stage. This stage is characterized by minimal human intervention, and not just automation, but analytics and artificial intelligence evolve that detect, protect, adjust, and even optimize the environment. Operations in this stage are not just automated, but they're actually continually optimized. There are really very few companies in this stage of the ESG backup model today, but this is pretty much where the market is evolving towards.
Thanks, Greg. So with that said, where exactly are you on the data protection journey? Do you find yourself struggling with legacy solutions, or are you dipping your toe into cloud workloads? Perhaps you have already crossed that chasm through orchestration and are curious about automation as well as orchestration. Or finally, is your organization one that sees value in data and is looking to push the envelope with artificial intelligence and machine learning? Really, the most important thing is not knowing where you are in the journey, but if you are in the right phase of the journey for your company's data protection strategy. So before we continue on, I have one more poll for today. The poll is, which stage of the maturity model do you think best represents your company's current position with backup? Would you consider your organization legacy and on-premise? Perhaps you consider yours cloud-enabled? What about analytics and automation? Or are you forward-thinking and one of the few companies that ESG has referenced that might be exploring artificial intelligence and machine learning? Once again, please use the voting tab below and select the one that matches your organization's current state. So now that we've defined the 4 phases of the journey, Greg, would you mind sharing with us how organizations might cross that chasm and transform from one phase to the next?
You bet, Andy. As we saw in the results to our 2 polls, there's the last one still coming in, but attendees view their companies as having different approaches to data and also as being at various stages in the maturity model. And probably not too surprisingly, it's looking like most are coming in falling more into the legacy and cloud-enabled stages. The good news is that vendors continue to advance features, functions, and new technologies that address some problems. So even if your company remains in stages 1 and 2, you will continue to enjoy improvements. As ESG points out, stages 1 and 2 will continue to be a major area of focus for backup vendors for the next couple years. However, most vendors continue to push a product-oriented approach that is really more focused on those features and functions than it is on solving problems. And many companies continue to accept products rather than solutions. And in general, I would say the enterprise backup market really continues to try to solve complexity with complexity. If you wish to cross the chasm and continue on the data protection journey to stages 3 and 4, a different approach is needed. We at Cobalt Iron really do take a unique approach to not just addressing, but solving the challenges of enterprise backup. Cobalt Iron's Compass solution not only modernizes backup, but crosses that chasm into intelligent data management. Cobalt Iron Compass software has led companies to a completely new experience and business outcome for enterprise backup. Compass accomplishes this by plugging in various backup, storage, and cloud technologies, and then adding to that deep layers of automation, growing analytics, and deep security, and then delivering enterprise backup as a service. Compass transports customers along this data protection journey and transforms enterprise backup into that autonomous data intelligence that we've been talking about. Let's briefly review how Cobalt Iron Compass maps to the ESG backup transformation model. First of all, the Compass platform delivers enterprise scale backup. It delivers deep maturity, performance, and cost efficiencies for legacy and multi-cloud workloads. In addition, Compass is cloud-enabled, covering the various cloud use cases and providing a single unified experience across legacy and multi-cloud environments. These Compass capabilities map very clearly and very well to ESG stages 1 and 2. Secondly, Compass bridges the data management chasm that we've discussed for customers. Compass does this not just with automated software updates, but also with orchestration and with extensive automation and data analytics. Next, Compass delivers automation and intelligence through as-a-service and delivery and billing models. When new features are added, they're immediately experienced by all Compass users. Compass also provides cyber shield capabilities for data security, authentication control, air gap, and ransomware readiness. These are natively designed into the Compass platform. It also does deep data collection of metadata and metrics, and that gives new data context and insights into backup operations and infrastructure. So, as we've seen and discussed, as-a-service delivery, orchestration, cybersecurity integration, and data context are some of the key elements of the ESG Stage 3. And Compass has been delivering these for years. Compass is also delivering a good portion of the ESG 4th autonomous stage of capabilities. Compass already provides autonomous operations. You can think of it sort of as an autopilot for enterprise backup, along with analytics-based optimizations. Those are 2 key aspects of this 4th stage. Compass, it's interesting, but Compass is always optimizing workloads, learning from past operational behaviors, being trained with best practices, and also being enhanced with additional analytics and integrations. The business outcomes from this continual adaptation are part of the ongoing value of the Compass experience. So you can imagine that we at Cobalt Iron were very happy to see Christophe and ESG's backup data transformation model come out, as it very well articulates the journey and transformation that Cobalt Iron Compass is all about. So with that, Andy and I would like to thank you for your participation today. And at this time, we would like to open it up to the question and answer portion of our webinar. And Andy, did you get, I didn't check the Q&A board yet, but did you get any answers to your gift questions?
Yeah, we did. Thanks, Greg, for wrapping that up. We have finished about 4 minutes early, so I think we've got a handful of minutes here that we can continue on and get people back to their day jobs. But yes, looks like within the answers, the individual that guessed Vail, Colorado would be the closest. Actually, the mountain range that I'm sitting on top of in that picture is, yes, it's in the Colorado Rocky Mountains in the Sasquatch Range, and it's on top of Mount Belford at 14,197 feet. So that is about 87 miles south of Vail, Colorado. So if whoever submitted Vail, Colorado, if you can provide us your name so we can get you the $50 Amazon gift card, that'd be great. So that's the answer to the first question. Well done. The second question, the question was, what is the largest application in the data center? So looks like we have a couple people that said the same thing, but the first one that came in is the person that spelled out data protection software. So data protection software, you are the winner of the $50 Amazon gift card. Please let us know your name as well. You can submit that into the same box, so that would be great. Okay, so in terms of, we do have a couple of questions in queue while we're answering these. If anybody else has any other questions that they'd like to ask, please put them in the Ask a Question tab and we will get to them. But Greg, the first question that came in, it's a good question. It says, what are you automating with Compass and how exactly does that work?
Yeah, so I was just looking at that, Andy. Good question. Thank you for that. Compass automates many of the tasks associated with backup infrastructure and backup operations. So to be a little more specific, for example, Compass keeps all software automatically current and at latest release levels. This is not just for a backup tooling software, but it's also for the underlying operating system software, Compass software itself, and storage firmware levels. So all of the tasks around evaluating each software release or patch, testing them, planning and installing software sort of all go away. In addition, Compass automates all aspects of backup tooling so that companies never need to log in to backup servers ever again. So all of those configuration, monitoring, and tuning tasks that are done typically on a daily basis are all automated. And I could go on in the areas of performance, capacity, health, cyber threat monitoring and management for both the backup infrastructure and the operations, extending, for example, extending capacity for backup database or storage space. All of those things are automated. So that, Andy, that's sort of a quick answer to some of the automation that we do in Compass. So thank you for that question.
Fantastic.
Looks like,
yeah, the second question we have here, Greg, just came in. It is, what is meant by cybersecurity baked in?
Ooh, okay. So cybersecurity is something on everyone's mind, and it seems to be growing, unfortunately, in the world we live in. But cybersecurity is something Cobalt Iron takes very, very seriously. Compass provides data security with encryption in flight and encryption at rest at all times. Compass also has deep layers of authentication controls designed in, so that's sort of what we mean by baked in. Everything I'm talking about comes with the product. No, it's not layered on top. It's not a separate product or a separate priced product. It's all part of the Compass service. These authentication controls don't just minimize risk. In many cases, they actually eliminate risks. Like an example that comes to my mind is that our Compass accelerators that perform backups for customer workloads do not expose the normal attack vectors that exist with almost all backup products. So backup software, the operating system that runs on, the storage it uses are three common attack points for backup environments. And actually, Andy, I've heard of 2 companies in the last month or 2 months that actually had their backup products compromised and all backup data destroyed. So this is a real threat. With Cobalt Iron Compass, those attack points just don't exist. Customers cannot log into the operating system, the backup software, Compass software, or the Compass managed storage. And so as a result, those attack openings don't exist for hackers. They're managed automatically. One other point on this, and then I'll close it up. Compass provides air gap and immutability by design. So that's, again, what we mean by baked in, as well as cyber threat monitoring and reporting. So together, we actually call all of these capabilities Cyber Shield. So in contrast, most backup products have some basic security but require additional price software layered on top. So those are just a couple quick thoughts on that one. Again, thanks for the question.
Thanks, Greg.
Are there any others out there?
Yeah. There's one more question that came in. The question is, can we get a copy of the ESG white paper? And what I can tell you is, if you look on the section under attachments and links, we do have a link to the ESG, to Christophe Bertrand's ESG blog, and that link is there. It's also a video blog, so please do reference that. I think that ESG and Christophe did a remarkable job of mapping this out, and as Greg mentioned, I think that we're extremely thrilled here at Cobalt Iron because it does map very similarly to how Compass is architected and designed. So I don't see any other questions. I will put back out there one more time, whoever submitted the answer for data protection software, please let us know who you are so that we can get you your $50 gift card. Oh, we did just get one more question to come in. The question is, how can we get a demo, Greg?
It's a good question. So I think the key thing there would be if we can get a contact information. So if you could put your contact information in there, we'll contact you for follow-up to get additional information. You can also go to our website that has a link for how to contact as well. But if you'd like, you can just put it in there in the Q&A, and we'll get back with you.
Very good. Any other questions that could be answered, please submit them right now. Otherwise, I think that we will be wrapping up today's webinar. We thank you for attending. Hopefully this was educational and informational, and we'd love to hear more from you and get any feedback directly from you. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your Thursday.